I want to turn things back over now to Storm Team 5 meteorologist Steve Weigel with more on Matthew. Steve.
Yes, some major changes, Kelly, on the 11 p.m. advisory. Now a hurricane warning for our viewing area. Everyone should be taking this very seriously if you aren't already. I know a lot of folks are buying supplies, getting the hurricane shutters up. That is fantastic. You want to be prepared for this one. Hurricane warning all the way back into Lake Okeechobee now, with this storm still a Category 4 and moving across Cuba, eastern Cuba. It has weakened a little bit during the day, simply because there's so much interaction with land, and mountains along eastern Cuba have also taken a little bit of a punch out of this too, which is nice to see. Unfortunately, it's probably a short-term trend. In the long term, it's up over some open water and low wind shear, so it has a chance to at least keep its strength or get even a little bit stronger. So a Category 4 Wednesday, that's 8 p.m. into Thursday, 8 a.m. It's still well off our coast. We're not in the air cone at this point, but we certainly are Thursday night. 130-mile-an-hour winds, Category 4 hurricane. That places it right on the western tip of Grand Bahama, about 65 miles off the coastline, and then even closer as we get into the Treasure Coast. This is a Category 4 hurricane, not very far off the coastline. And what's more to consider here is that the air cone is well back into Lake Okeechobee, and we've seen 2 days of the hurricane tracks, the official forecast shifting closer west and west and west. So we could certainly see a track. It's still possible to see a track into our viewing area as a landfall. There is the chance for that. At this point, though, it stays just offshore and then just parallels the coastline all the way up into the Carolinas and then up into the North Atlantic. So we're still in the air cone. Even though the storm is just offshore, we're going to pick up some very strong winds and some very heavy rainfall. Computer models tonight, they shifted a little from earlier today, but it was enough for the track to shift a bit. Here's what we're looking at. These are the probabilities of tropical storm force winds of 40, 50, 60-mile-an-hour winds. We're almost at 100% now, so we're almost guaranteed to see those winds. As far as hurricane force winds, 31% on the Treasure Coast, 36 in Palm Beach County. Those numbers will change as the storm gets closer on Wednesday. Hurricane warning across the entire viewing area. Also back around Lake Okeechobee now, we have watches and warnings to the south and to the north. Here's the timing. We have the winds just off our coastline Thursday, 9 a.m. They're in along the beaches by the noon hour. They're far inland, late afternoon, early evening, and even some stronger winds working in through the evening and overnight hours. Even higher winds possible across the Treasure Coast overnight Thursday and into Friday morning before it all starts to pull off toward the north after that. So here's a breakdown on what to expect. Wednesday, you still have time to prepare. Wednesday won't be a bad day overall, although outer rain bands working in late in the day and into Wednesday evening. Thursday, of course, the winds, the tropical storm force winds arriving by the noon hour, some heavy rainfall developing by the evening, and there is a slight tornado threat. That tornado threat will be around Thursday night. Additional rainfall of 2 to 4 inches possible, and those peak winds approaching hurricane force, maybe above in a few spots, starting to improve on Friday as we get the storm rolling away. The first part of Friday, though, is very, very strong winds and still some very heavy rainfall. It's late in the day when we start to see an improvement. I'll throw it over to James now with more.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Steve. And we're looking at Vipercast right here. We're going to go hour by hour and try to pinpoint when we're going to see some of these outer bands rolling on through and when the worst of it is going to come our way. So let's go through time here, and I think tomorrow will be just fine. As we get into Thursday, so we skipped ahead to there. So we get into Thursday morning, you see the first couple little bands moving through. The bulk of the storm near Grand Bahama there, and then as we get into Thursday afternoon, here comes some rain bands, squally weather as each of those moves on through. A little bit of a break in between both. Then the peak of the action coming on in Thursday night, say Thursday evening through the overnight hours and into Friday morning, and you see the Treasure Coast kind of the bullseye right here for it, and then it starts to pull up to the north. We'll start to improve greatly by Friday night. Things improving drastically. Now, what wind direction are we going to see? Where's the worst wind coming from and what direction? We'll start off Thursday with more of an east-northeast wind across the area. Then as the storm gets a little bit higher in latitude, it starts to turn a little bit north. By Thursday around dinner time, it's maybe due north in the Palm Beaches, but still northeast along the Treasure Coast. Then as the storm gets closer and rides parallel to the coastline, we're going to see that wind turn offshore, more of a west wind in Palm Beaches, but still more of a north wind for the Treasure Coast. And this is the closest approach here to the Treasure Coast, less than 100 miles there. Sometimes when this happens too, friction from the land can pull the storm a little bit closer. So we're really going to have to look out for that right there into Friday morning. And then Friday night, everything turns southwest and starts to quiet on down. Steve?
All right.